Okay, so today's video is going to be about how a simple hip tip can absolutely revolutionize and improve your ball striking. Let's get stuck into it. Okay, so I think first of all what we need to do is we need to understand how important the hips are, and particularly the pelvis area is, in relation to just how we generally move. Now I think the best way to think about this is that your spine will always try and align itself to the pelvis. So wherever your pelvis sort of moves, your spine will always try and align itself to. So how is this going to link itself to better ball striking? Well, amateur golfers who struggle with ball striking are generally doing things where they're sort of standing up. You know, if you start to stand up, the chance of you striking that golf ball very well is obviously going to, well, lessen. To be able to become a good ball striker, you need to be able to keep yourself over the golf ball. So I think a really simple exercise that you can do to identify the correct type of motions is to set the same box up that I've got here. So I've literally just crossed over 2 alignment sticks, and it kind of creates 4 boxes. And from my right-hander's perspective, so apologies for my left-handed golfers, I'm going to just do my best here, but what we're effectively talking about is, well, in the backswing position, let's just say that we try and trigger a rotation so that we stay very sort of vertical, very much on top of the golf ball. So you'd almost feel like you're placed just over the actual line, the alignment stick that's pointing out in front of me here. But the question really is, well, what are you going to do as you start downswing? Now, for me, what I'm going to do is just refer to them, so top left, top right, bottom left and bottom right from my perspective. So what we don't want to do is we don't want anything excessively moving towards the top right box. So I don't want my trail hip firing towards the top right box. And the reason for this is, as I put my hands across my shoulders, is because what you can see is the way that, like I spoke about earlier, if my trail hip just goes immediately forward, then my spine will just align itself to the pelvis and my right shoulder will shoot up, therefore lending itself to flipping motion. So what we need to be doing is we need to be progressing, first of all, this way. Okay, we need to be moving to some degree towards this lead side. As we start to move towards the lead side, this is going to enhance our chances of striking more through the golf ball. But it's a little bit more detailed than that, because what we need to be doing as well is to stop us getting stuck, which we're going to talk about in this video. We also need to be triggering some rotation. Now, I personally think when I get to work with golfers, I'm sort of always emphasising the importance of the bottom left box down here. And when you start to do that, I'm going to show you the difference here. So we're just going to go trail hip to top right box, and then I'm going to go sort of pelvis to top left box, and then I'm going to go pelvis to bottom left box. And what you can start to see is how when I do the upper boxes, it has more of a tendency for me to sort of stand up. When I go down to the bottom left box, all of a sudden I start to look like I stay more downward. Now, when you're practicing this, you can do this as much as you want, because you'll start to get a feeling of moving towards the lead side, and equally getting a feeling of putting pressure underneath that lead leg. You're also going to get a much stronger sense of staying over the golf ball. And then once you start to do this, then you can just start to get the feeling of the lower body leading, or if you like, doing this motion while simultaneously trying to keep your head still. And this will stop any of you that are worried about swinging over the top. It'll sort of give you more of a sense of actually how to just sort of drop the club more into the slot. So let's just continue the importance of this movement a little bit more. So from a slightly different perspective now, I'm going to face you guys. And the second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line through the heel of the golf club, but through pretty much, we say, the shaft of the golf club, like so. And what this is doing is this is acting as our sort of playing line. And this is where we need to keep the club moving. Now, what we tend to see with good ball strikers is we don't tend to see much club face manipulation. You tend to see the club face stay very stable. So as another great exercise you can practice at home, if I get set up to the golf ball like so, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to progressively move my arms to the side of my body whilst continuing to swing the club shaft up the plane line. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that there is no club face rotation, or no forearm rotation. And what we can see, and you can experiment with this at home, is that if you limit your lower body motion, so you isolate just your arms, you'll notice the way that anatomically there's only so far you can go past the ball. However, if I now allowed my forearm to rotate and I cock the club up and I keep my trail hand on as I do this, actually you can see how much further I can advance the club up with doing very little, as if I don't look at the camera, very little, if not zero, body rotation. And That's the thing, you see, because if you started to practice and you were slightly uncertain of how to do this move, well, if I do this, but then this time I allow my body to rotate, you can see the way I'm able to continue that club moving through without encouraging any forearm rotation. Now, obviously, this is very much an exaggerated drill, but the movement I'm trying to imply is that the importance that having good body rotation has in the downswing is, we've already seen from the previous exercise when we used the boxes, getting the pelvis downward facing gives you the ability to stay over the ball. But what we're also seeing is that, well, good ball strikers also keep that club face stable and they keep the club moving through on plane. And that's the same thing. By working on this pelvis down and left, it gives you the ability to keep moving the chest through, and it will mean that you won't need to feel like you're having to use your hands and arms as much to square the club face, which I think for a lot of golfers is a feeling that you really want. Memorize a fantastic feeling and something that you can do to then try and hit some golf balls is to really just sort of concentrate on getting the belt buckle pointing down towards your lead ankle. This would just, again, it's similar to the boxes exercise, turning the belt buckle down towards the lead ankle, or if you like, turning the pelvis into the leg. That's going to give you that ability to trigger rotation and stay over the golf ball. And as you continue that movement, as I continue that movement, I'm going to face you guys again, similar to the experience you'd get if you did this exercise. What will happen is that you'll just allow that lead hip to keep progressing back behind the body, and it encourages more chest rotation. This will also stay back, which, as we discussed in the beginning part of the video, that'll tilt the pelvis, which means that's why, again, we tend to see some of the greatest ball strikers are very much low to the ground. So it's all the same thing. The importance of how your pelvis moves in the golf swing is really significant to how your swing will look. And like I say, if you're somebody who is really standing up in the golf swing, then you certainly need to be practicing the exercises I've suggested today, because it will start to open up the world of keeping much more sort of downward facing, so you can certainly start to compress the golf ball. So hopefully you've really enjoyed the video. What I'd also suggest is this video here, because I talk very much about the importance of the lead leg, and getting the lead leg moving towards the target will also make life a lot easier in terms of increasing the rotation, which will give you that sort of downswing that you've probably been long searching for.